Have you ever watched the first episode of a TV show to then find that you're not really that interested in continuing to the second episode? How's it? This is Chop with Screenplay Prep and a TV show that doesn't beg for more. Have you ever had that scenario where you've looked forward maybe to a TV show to only find there's no point watching beyond the first episode? It can often happen with a series such as Lost all those years ago, where the first season was pretty good and it dipped quite sharply. Disappointment means you just simply cannot continue. But here's the crunch for me. Mr. Selfridge was intriguing in that I wondered what it could do in relation to what Downton Abbey did for the genre that it was covering in Britain with the early 1900s, First World War, and the whole upstairs, downstairs concept of lords and ladies and the servants in the basement. So knowing and having visited many times the Selfridge's store in central London, England, I really was intrigued as to what this might bring. And the first episode started relatively well, albeit a slightly poor casting, I think, for Mr. Selfridge. Not so much that the actor's a bad actor, but I'm not sure if he fitted the role. But the biggest problem, what shocked me about the first episode, was that at the end of it, I had no reason to continue. And now this may come across as an unfair review as such. I did not see the second episode. So what I'm speaking of here is based on only the first episode. But my point for screenwriting is a problem where you kind of pass over very important information. So episode 1 of Mr. Selfridge sees this American entrepreneur come to London to set up a department store and change the face of shopping, as he puts it. But it's glazed over in terms of the history of this chap, Mr. Selfridge, in the first episode. Where has he come from to be embarking on such a large project, which effectively is taking a large portion of land in London, huge real estate at a high premium. The point is, they show ground zero. They show this massive hole in the ground that takes a huge square block of London off Oxford Street. And they show Mr. Selfridge turning to face a crowd of people and presenting this spot as being the future of Selfridges. So the problem I have is that the TV show jumps at a point to the completion of the building and the staff are being hired and they're preparing during this week leading up to the opening. So suddenly you've got this magnificent store, and having been to it myself, it's huge, fantastic, well-constructed stone building in the typical old style, very different to today's glass and steel. It's a beautiful, solid building. And the amazing thing is they completed it within 1 year. It's a huge feat of construction. And they glazed over it. There was nothing to show the construction process, nothing to show the journey of Selfridges, inclusive of the man, Mr. Selfridge. Where did he come from to achieve this? Where did he get his money to be able to fuel this project? Where did he get his stature to gain investment from partners and investors to set all of this up? So by the end of the first episode, you've got the opening of the store and the crowds coming in. There is no intrigue for my continuing. So from a screenwriting perspective, what I want to say to you guys is just be very careful if you are doing a historical drama and there is something significant. Don't gloss over that. There is intrigue in how something comes to be. To suddenly have it pop up and you jump to what you as a writer might think you want to get to, you could be really disappointing a large portion of your audience. Aside from missing potentially some very interesting things that could go on, in this case, in the construction of a huge superstore. There could be all sorts of drama within that and contracts going wrong, anything that can create the tension. But being that this series is called Mr. Selfridge, based on a superstore, department store called Selfridge's, you can't gloss over the construction of that. It seems, I felt cheated. I now see that the series has gone on since 2013 to 4 seasons. So I guess they must have got something right, but I just wasn't hooked to go beyond. And a friend of mine who was also watching this with me, he did move on to the second episode, but admitted there was not much to intrigue him to go beyond that. So perhaps its salvation was the soap opera audience, but for me, I was expecting more. So it's a useful exercise perhaps to watch episode 1 and maybe episode 2 to see how they contrast, but certainly watching the first episode of Mr. Selfridge just to see how you feel and how that might help you in your screenwriting, particularly with a TV series, making sure that your first episode or pilot episode really hits home hard and creates those hooks for the series. Another aspect of weakness in this first episode was that it didn't set much up for the future. I wasn't left feeling, oh, I need to watch because I need to know what's going to happen here and how that's going to pan out. Some scenes did bring some ideas to light, but they were pretty much dealt with by the end of the first episode. So there wasn't a cliffhanger. There was no, what's going to happen next, and is someone going to get killed, and is he going to be closed down? There was nothing that in terms of tension and cliffhanger at the end of the first episode, which I thought was shocking. So have a watch of it and see what you guys think. But I hope this was useful, and I hope to see you in the next video.